single or double train, as per the tender. So I guess that's my question.
The Build Canada grant was pretty specific about the tertiary treatment plant and a double train concept. Because it relates to the ability to service the catchment area that the plant was intended to serve. We talked about the full build, and I discussed this issue with the folks at Build Canada and explained what the single train option was, and that we have an opportunity to phase in the second train as flows and growth dictated. And they were, if we make that official request, it would have to be submitted to them for approval. They wouldn't guarantee it over the phone that that would be approved, but they were prepared to consider it as a reasonable amendment to the project.
Dr. Underwood. So given then that our lawyer has asked, and we've been given assurance that they're able to extend or change the mandate for time, surely it's possible then for them to be able to change the choice of facility if they choose to do so.
Yeah, I communicated to the joint board that, it's just what I communicated to you, the application that was submitted on the basis of our submission to Build Canada was for the full treatment plant. Not phasing, not a single train version, for the full treatment plant. They weren't, when it was explained to them that the objectives were to build a plant that was capable of meeting the objectives of our grant, but all we were seeking in terms of, and still in discussion at that time, was that there was an option to build one of the trains now and one of the trains as growth progressed. That would be the only difference, and they felt it was reasonable to them, but they said it has to be submitted for formal approval by them, and at the end of the day, one of the cautionary notes was that if you go for the single train, they couldn't guarantee that the funding for the second train would be continued to allow that to take place. That would be a political decision for that, but at this point in time, until we formally notify them of either we're following through with the full build double train, or we're requesting an amendment, then they will render we have to formally submit if we're making any amendment to the project.
Councilor Underwood, I think you were saying we can amend the agreement to extend the time. Can we amend the agreement to a different plant?
Yes.
And I don't believe that was not from the joint board at that meeting. They said if you're going to look at options, you're going to look at options on your own. Is that not if we looked at options, they would, from Blue Water, it was stated that would be a Lambton Shores request or expense. They weren't paying any more money. Dr. Mary,
as I recall it, they didn't definitively say that they wouldn't consider something else. They did say that their preferred option, of course, was a single train for South Huron, but it wasn't a cut and dry. And I think one thing that's helpful to keep in mind is that I actually did talk to our MVP, Monty McNaughton, and I talked to our MP as well, Brett Shipley, and asked them what their experience was with making some significant change to the Build Canada grant. And I was given a couple of examples of major changes of scope to Build Canada grants, both Alvingston with the wastewater project, as well as Strathroy-Caradoc, their Mount Bridges sewer project as well. They had a major change of scope to their projects, and Build Canada actually allowed them to go forward with a different approach, or a significant change. In fact, apparently the Mount Bridges one was even more expensive than what was applied for under the Build Canada grant. So the thing that they said to us too is that they would be willing to advocate for us for a change if that's what our desire is. And I think that they're very interested in finding a resolution to this that addresses all four of the issues that are at stake here: the capacity issues, the effluent levels, the cost, and also addressing the sewage and the fact that if we do not put zones 3 and 4 onto a sewer system, that we have to have some type of a plan to address instead of just spreading it on farmers' fields indefinitely. So they recognize there's environmental issues to deal with, there's financial issues, we're in difficult economic times, and they're willing to support us and stand with us to perhaps take a different approach here. So I don't think that door is closed. We can go back to the table. So I think we need to keep our mind open to all different types of options.
The message I got from Bev, who I talked to this morning, was that the program is set, there's criteria for the program, and it would be reapplied, and if it met the criteria and met the requirements ahead of other programs that are already in the chain, it would be considered. John, you had another...
No, I just want to confirm that's fine. My conversations were with the staff of Build Canada. They indicated that, as the Deputy Mayor indicates, there's an element of where political involvement gets involved, and they did not comment on it. They commented from their staff level, and that's where I was communicating with.
Councillor Owen.
I guess we have to clarify here. We were talking the full build plan. Any deviation from that, the single train, I think we would have to reapply. And but any other significant deviation, we would also have to reapply. I guess we've all done our phone calls and our little bit of research, so I guess my interpretation of a discussion with Build Canada is that there is no guarantee of funding approval if we make a significant change. And significant deviations could jeopardize our funding. Our MP suspects that it's very likely that we will have to resubmit and the dollars will go back if we make a significant change. Our MPP states it's his understanding that the allocated dollars would go back if we make a significant change. Spoke to the warden. So I also do have another example of a system and changes to that system. And that is St. Clair Township. They are just commissioning their $31 million treatment plan. They applied to Build Canada the same year that Lambton Shores and our partners applied to Build Canada. They have just commissioned a $31 million plant, and here we are. But what Steve did say to me, he said, our plant came under tender, so there were a few dollars left. Whatever the few dollars were, I didn't ask him, but he did make the comment that it took them 2.5 years for Build Canada to give them approval for a sewer line to connect to a few additional homes, because everything is on sewers in that municipality. This was a little bit extra. But it took that long to get that kind of a change. Nevertheless, again, cautions regarding significant changes. So I guess that's all that I've been able to find on that particular item. I do have a number of other things, but I'd like to leave it for the discussion that we have agreed that we're going to have. Yeah.
Councillor Russell.
Further to this point of the politicians, we talk about Monty, we talk about Bev, but we also have Ben and Lisa involved in this, correct? Mm-hmm. And just to sort of set a different tone to this, because what I've heard in the press for the past 3 days is the sky is falling, and I don't see any political will from any other source to get behind the fact that we have 3 municipalities, unlike St. Clair, which has 1 involved in the thing. And 2 of those municipalities for the past, I'm going to go back at least almost 2 years, we've had difficulties with our partners. This has been an agreement that's taken a lot of work by staff, and they've done a wonderful job to keep this on the rails for as long as it's been, and I think we should all agree on that. But from a political standpoint, because I think John just put it right on the thing, he talks with the staff, that's John and his staff's job. We talk with the staff, we've talked with a few politicians, but how about we put this model out on the table? We can talk about gloom and doom all we want, but the fact of the matter is that program was set up during a time of major recessionary need. Both the provincial government and the federal government decided we would invest in infrastructure because it's a good use of money. A Keynesian theory says that's how you spend the money, you put it into infrastructure. So we all bought into it. In this municipality, we got 4 projects. Unlike most, we were very, very fortunate. And this is the 4th, the final one of the 4. And the fact of the matter is, we got 5. I apologize, Council. I mean, maybe I wasn't there for the 5th. But the fact of the matter is,